What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? NoZoupForYou here, and I've got a preview of the HMS Audacious for you, the Tier 10 Tech Tree aircraft carrier for the Royal Navy. And I just love that name, Audacious. In fact, I love all the Royal Navy ship names. They just did a really good job with naming them. The Audacious, the Implacable. I think I just made that one up, I don't know, but really cool naming conventions. Their ships just seem very bold. But we're not here to talk about ship names. We're here to look at the Audacious, and I'm going to briefly touch on the Audacious, but then I want to talk about the aircraft carrier Rework right now, and my feelings regarding it after playing it for an entire night. I spent last night streaming. I had a lot of fun playing aircraft carriers. A really, really good time playing aircraft carriers. In many ways, it rejuvenated the game for me. And then I started playing other ships. I played destroyers, and I played cruisers, and I played battleships, and doing that, my enthusiasm died a little bit. But we'll get into that slowly. First, about the Audacious. You know, I really don't know how to preview these ships. I don't know what to say about them other than it's an aircraft carrier that can put up a lot of airplanes, and they can do a lot of damage. I guess the thing about the Audacious that strikes me as a little different than the other aircraft carriers I've used, the planes are pretty fast. I mean, their stock speed is pretty darn fast. Their speed boost burns fairly slow, or their engine boost, as I would have it. The Hornets on the plane, the type of planes it carries, are very sleek looking. They're nice looking. They can take a lot of damage, especially if you spec the airplanes for damage. And I think a lot of the things about the aircraft carriers that people don't realize right now is that captain skills, a lot of things that you might not have used in the past on certain ships can be used on aircraft carriers. For instance, Survivability Expert. Survivability Expert does a lot for your airplanes right now. I think it's like 15 hit points per tier, and that's a lot for an airplane, so adding that is a good thing. Now, the drop patterns on the torpedo bombers on the Audacious are very good. I like them. The torpedo range is short at only 1.5 miles, and I put acceleration on mine just to ensure that I get those hits when I drop very close to a ship. That doesn't help the situation in the range of these torpedoes, but the trade-off to that is I can wait till the very last moment, and I can score torpedo hits without fail on cruisers, on battleships, on any, it doesn't matter. And the airplanes do a good job at surviving AA flak. I mean, I've dropped on Minotaurs, I've dropped on Des Moines, and it's really fun dropping on those cruisers. And that's just the torpedo bombers. The bombers, in my opinion, I'm not going to say they're better than the torpedo bombers, but they're really easy to use. And at first, I kind of got messed up because I was so used to the other ships I've been testing and their bombing patterns, and I started my bombing run just way, way, way too early. The bombing pattern and the attack run on the bombers is very, very favorable. And I find that the bombs do a lot of damage and start a lot of fires. And if you get your target reticle perfectly on a ship, it's pretty easy to do at least 10,000 damage on battleships and everything else. And that's pretty cool in my opinion. For my testing of the Audacious, every round I played in, I did really well. In fact, I lost a lot, which sucks, but every single round that I lost, I came in first place on my team. I've never done that in an aircraft carrier. Never. I was like, what is happening here? I'm at the top of my team in an aircraft carrier? And the round that I did really good in, which you're watching right now, I came in second place and still did over 2,000 base XP, which, again, for me, that is out of the ordinary. That's not normal. To be fair, I did bully the hell out of a Conqueror. I farmed 110,000 damage off of him. But in my defense, he did make it over to my side, and had I not done that, I mean, really at this point, it was more self-preservation than anything else. But again, it just shows that the Audacious is very much an audacious ship, and you can do some audacious things in it. And I just like saying the word audacious. But some things that are not audacious. Let's talk about the other ships and the rework in general right now and where it stands. I have urged calm, and I am still urging calm. But I will say last night, there were moments of rage during my stream. My viewers heard those moments of rage. It first started when I was playing in a destroyer. I wanted to show everyone the new Strashimi. Well, within the first 30 seconds of the round, I was targeted, I was dropped on, I lost 3/4 of my health. At that point, I was effectively neutered. New Strashimi was neutered. I could not do anything. My sole focus was on dodging airplanes, dodging torpedoes, dodging rockets, and it sucked. I outran the torpedoes. It was actually pretty funny. Everyone saw that and got a laugh out of it. It's not fun to be a destroyer player right now. It's just not. And I will say that Wargaming is aware of this. They have said as much. They've said they know there are slight, well, I don't want to say slight. They didn't say slight. They said there are balance issues with destroyers, but because it's only been a few days, they can't get the full picture. And this is why I'm urging calm. This is why I'm telling myself I need to be calm as well. It's the reason that, because it's the first few days, they don't know the full effects of these aircraft carriers. They don't know the full effects of AA. They don't know the full effects. They've got to pull the data. And they are going to start tweaking. But it's not going to be a very simple overnight process. This, my friends, is going to take time. The balance issues aren't going to be solved in a weekend. They're not going to be solved in a week. They're probably not going to be solved in a month. And maybe in a year we'll get to a place where things have normalized. But it's going to be a long road. Wargaming is vested. They've told us they're vested. So right now there's going to be some pain. I mean, there were a few rounds last night where I didn't see a single destroyer. I've never seen that before. But from what I've seen, it's mainly the higher tiers where destroyers are affected the most. Which makes absolute sense. I mean, you've got radar you have to deal with, and now you're adding airplanes on top of it. I did like 3,000 damage the entire round. I sank one ship, and it was only because I picked some low-hanging fruit and decided to attack a Shimakaze that was on its last breath. That damage happened at the very end of my destroyer's life. The rest of the round, like I said, it was focusing on dodging airplanes. And that, as a destroyer player, is not fun. It's not. But I have a fix for that. I have a very easy fix. I have a very easy fix for the spotting issues right now with the aircraft carriers and all the airplanes in the air. Once an aircraft carrier spots a ship, that ship can only be seen by the aircraft carrier. Now, we can say that maybe a ship will pop up on the mini-map so the rest of the team knows the general vicinity of that ship, but I don't think the entire team should be able to see that ship, especially if you're dealing with a destroyer. Because for a destroyer, not only are you having to counter an aircraft carrier's moves and deal with the aircraft carrier, you're spotted the entire time, and that entire time, the enemy team's firing at you or has the ability to fire at you. That's destroyers right now. Those are my feelings playing destroyers. Let's move on to cruisers. Cruisers are not immune as well, and I made the big mistake of playing Irian last night. Huge mistake. Not a mistake because it's a bad ship. Quite the opposite. I love the Irian. If you don't have the Irian and you can get the Irian, I would get it so long as, you don't have to pay more than 8,888 doubloons. We talked about that last night too. If you got to pay that twice, you're kind of overpaying. But if you're guaranteed it within 9,000 doubloons, it's a great ship to have at a good cost. Not in the new meta though. Not in CV world. And definitely not when you are the lowest tier, one of a few tier 8s in a sea of tier 10s. And right now, I hate to say it, but tier 8 is the absolute worst tier to play. I think I raged about that more than CVs last night, more than playing against CVs in a destroyer. Just the sole fact that tier 8 is no longer fun to play. Really, this is the biggest argument for +1, -1 gameplay. Again, I got focused by aircraft carriers. Within the first minute of the round, I was down almost my entire health because of aircraft carriers and rockets in the first half of the round. And in a tier 10 match, in a cruiser, that's pretty darn unsettling. So the remainder of the entire round, I was ineffective. I stayed in the back, and I'm lucky I even accrued 30,000 damage. And that's because I was firing at a Grosser Kurfürst that just happened to be lit on fire, and I got a couple more fires on him, and I stayed at range. But aside from that, I did nothing. Again, I was neutered because of aircraft carriers. And yes, I know this is a new meta, and we gotta get used to it. But being a tier 8 and a tier 10 match, that's not the kind of getting used to that I want to get used to. It's just not fun. Now moving on to battleships. Played a tier 8 battleship. We thought we'd have some fun and take out some dual Massachusettses last night. We thought we'd bring out some dual maybes. Again, bottom tier. One of a few tier 8s. Not fun. Not fun at all. And yes, while we had to deal with the aircraft, well, actually, the whole round was dealing with aircraft. Because ultimately, those are what sank me. The midway sank me because the enemy team had 2 midways. And the torpedo drops on the midway are pretty decent. And there's a lot of torpedoes coming at you. And when you've got tier 10 ships you got to worry about and a tier 8 ship, you really can't pay attention to both at the same time. It's like you either choose dodging aircraft and run the risk of putting yourself broadside to some very big guns, or you focus solely on the ships that might hammer you when you go broadside and take some torpedoes. Unfortunately, torpedoes don't do immense amounts of damage, but they still hurt, and they still flood, and they still cause you to use your damage rep. And when you're a tier 8 ship and you use your damage rep, that opens you up for Zal fire and other fire and tons of HE spam and secondaries and everything else. And again, it's not fun. Now, I will say I had some luck in the Azuma. The Azuma that's been moved to tier 9 with defensive fire. I think I shot down 25 planes in her, and no planes really got a good drop on me. That was fun. Didn't have a really high damage round, but for those of you curious about the Azuma, I think she's really at home in tier 9 right now. I mean, she's a good ship and a lot of fun and a very good addition. At first we were a little wary of her being dropped from tier 10 to tier 9, but I think in the long run it's going to work out. So right now things are in a weird state. We're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to see what exactly is going to be done with the balance regarding CVs and the direction Wargaming is going to go. And another thing I didn't touch about, the firing sector thing. Firing sector is a complete BS. I hate having to press a button to bring up this firing sector thing to move the majority of my AA to one side, which takes time to do, and then on top of that, I'm not seeing any really noticeable results. I don't like it, I think the mechanic's silly, and I think of all things, that needs to be taken out. It just does. It doesn't do anything, and it's just one extra step I don't want to have to deal with if I'm dodging and having to worry about other things. I mean, I even tried putting it on one side at the beginning of the round and keeping that side to the enemy. Still, no noticeable differences. We're in a holding pattern right now. We're waiting to see what's going to happen. Things are frustrating in many ways. Yes, I get that. Destroyers are frustrating right now. It sucks playing destroyers. It really sucks, and I hate saying that because I love destroyers. And, you know, fortunately right now we've got ranked gameplay that you can go play if you're not happy with CVs in the round. Cruisers, depending on your cruiser, you're in an okay spot. I guess the best ships right now that are in a decent spot are battleships and aircraft carriers. And again, it's a lot of fun playing these aircraft carriers. I love what they've done with the aircraft carriers. They've done a good job with the rework as far as the aircraft carriers and the gameplay is concerned. Yeah, it's a little stale sometimes, just launching planes, attacking, watching them get destroyed, launching planes, attacking. But still, I can work with that. I can work with that because I'm doing decent at it and I'm having fun doing it. It's the other ships right now that have to deal with this and have to deal with the fallout, and that are suffering in some ways silently, and some that aren't suffering so silently. If you've been to the forums, some people have been very verbal about it, and that's understandable. But saying you're going to quit on this day, saying you're going to quit after 1 week, not even 1 week, that's just kind of silly right there. And that's letting your emotions get the better of you. Give it a chance. Give it a chance. You got to give it a chance. Again, this had to be thrust onto the public server because the bots weren't providing enough good data, enough solid data of how the rework was going. This right now is the playtest, for better or worse. Right now we are in the carrier rework playtest. It sucks that it's live, but they're going to gather data and they're going to fix the issues we have right now, I guarantee. It's just going to take a little time. So again, I'm just urging you, to show a little patience. I'm urging you to be calm. Don't say the sky's falling, because we always do that. RPF. Taking away stealth firing. Radar. We always say the sky's falling. Players are going to quit the game, they're going to leave the game's going to die, and it never happens. Not once has it happened. Not once has the population even decreased because of any of those changes. In fact, it continues to go up. And I'm certain it probably will still do the same right now. But it's going to take time to work out the issues we have right now. And Audacious is a fun ship. You need to give it a try when the British carrier line is added to the game. Anyhow, guys, thanks for watching. I know this video ran a little long, but I had a lot to get off my chest regarding this CV rework, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it. So please leave a comment on this video. Tell me what you think right now. What are the high points? What are the low points? And what are your fixes for the balance issues right now? Anyhow, guys, thanks for watching. I wish you all the luck in the CV battles to come. Zoop out.